If you ignore the signal we are breaking down today, you are practically guaranteeing you will be on the wrong side of the largest wealth transfer in 5 centuries.
Mm-hmm.
We are not talking about a standard market correction or, a recession.
No.
We are talking about a fundamental rewrite of the rules of money.
And that's not just hype. If the data from Dalio and the moves by global central banks are accurate, the financial playbook that has governed the global economy for the last 80 years, it's about to be retired.
Gone.
And if you're still playing by those old rules when the new ones come into effect, the consequences could be.
Well, they could be severe.
And here's the twist. The thing that most people are completely missing.
Yeah.
While the mainstream media and, your dinner table conversations are all about whether crypto is a scam or a fad,
The same old story.
the oldest, most powerful banking institutions in the world, we're talking the architects of the current system,
Mm-hmm.
are quietly building the digital rails to adopt that exact technology.
They are preparing to replace the dollar-based system with the very infrastructure they publicly criticize.
It's the classic case of watch what they do, not what they say.
Exactly.
And what they're doing is building a lifeboat while telling everyone else the ship is unsinkable.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have a massive stack of research today, and it all centers around a very specific and frankly pretty sobering warning from Ray Dalio.
Bridgewater Associates founder, yeah.
Right. For those who don't follow the players, Bridgewater is the world's largest hedge fund. Dalio isn't some YouTuber, he's a historian of economics. He called the 2008 crash when everyone else was buying houses.
He did. And the rise of China.
And now he's gone on record stating that the monetary order is breaking down.
We really need to pause on that phrase, monetary order.
Yeah, what does that actually mean?
It sounds so academic, but it affects the price of your groceries, your mortgage, your savings, everything. Dalio isn't saying the stock market will have a bad year.
It's bigger than that.
It's much bigger. He's saying that the fundamental trust in fiat currency, specifically the US dollar and US debt, is eroding. For 80 years, since World War II, if you were a central bank and you wanted to store wealth safely, you bought US treasuries.
You bought America's debt.
It was the risk-free asset. Dalio is arguing that whole era is ending.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Trees.
People have been predicting the death of the dollar for decades. I mean, every few years there's a new doom and gloom prediction, yet the dollar is still king.
It is.
What makes this time different? Why should we believe the order is breaking now?
That is the right question. Skepticism is healthy. The difference now is that we aren't just looking at predictions, we're looking at behavior.
Okay.
The data has shifted. Dalio points to what he calls a capital war.
At capital.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Look, think about the sanctions in the early 2020s. The U.S. weaponized the dollar, right?
That-
Froze the assets of foreign nations. And regardless of your political stance on why that happened, the economic result was a shockwave. Every other nation looked at that and realized, wait, if we hold our wealth in dollars, it's not really ours. It can be turned off.
Like a switch.
Like a switch. That broke the trust. And once trust breaks, capital flees.
And we have the numbers to back that up. This is the part of the research that really stood out to me. We are seeing a historic pivot to gold.
A huge one.
Between 2022 and 2024, central banks purchased a record 1,037 tons of gold. That's not jewelry demand, that's nation states. And that trend has continued right into 2025 and now 2026.
And to put 1,037 tons into perspective, that is the highest level of buying we have seen in over 50 years.
Wow.
Central banks are conservative. They move slowly. They do not panic buy unless they see a structural problem. They are dumping dollars, these paper promises, to buy the only asset that has no counterparty risk.
So you don't need anyone's permission.
Exactly. If you hold gold, you don't need to trust a government to pay you back. It's yours.
So the diagnosis is that the patient, the U.S. dollar system, is sick, and the doctors, the central banks, are quietly securing their own medicine chest with gold.
That's a great way to put it.
But Dalio goes deeper than just current events. He talks about this big cycle.
Right. And this is the core of his thesis. Dalio studied the last 500 years of economic history. The Dutch Empire, the British Empire, and now the American Empire.
Okay.
He found that they all follow an identical, almost biological life cycle. It's a loop that just keeps repeating.
Okay, walk us through that loop. How do we get from a booming empire to a collapse?
It starts with stage one, peace and prosperity. A new world order is established. Think of the U.S. after 1945. You have a dominant power, the currency is the global standard, people are productive.
Boom.
It's the boom. In this phase, debt is usually low and income is high.
Okay, so everyone's happy, making money, life is good.
But that success, it plants the seeds of failure. That leads to stage 2, the debt bubble. Because things are going so well, people and the government get overconfident. They bet the good times will last forever, so they borrow money to expand, borrow to buy houses, fight wars, fund social programs.
Which feels great in the moment, I imagine.
Yeah.
You're spending money you don't actually have.
Exactly. It artificially boosts the economy, but eventually the debt grows faster than the income. That's the bubble. And here is the crucial mechanic that Dalio highlights. When the bubble threatens to burst, the government doesn't want a depression. So what do?
They print money.
They print money.
The famous money printer go brrr.
It's a funny meme, but the consequences are serious. When you print money to pay off debt, you devalue the currency. This causes asset inflation. Stocks go up, real estate goes up.
So if you own assets, you get richer.
You get richer. But if you work for a wage, your paycheck stays the same while everything around you gets more expensive.
And that leads to stage 3.
The wealth gap. The rich get significantly richer, and the poor and middle class get squeezed. We've seen this so clearly over the last 15 years. That disparity, it creates resentment.
Which brings us to stage 4, conflict.
Yes. And Dalio argues we are deep in this phase right now. And conflict comes in 2 forms. There's internal conflict.
Which is populism, political polarization, the left versus right stuff.
Exactly. Tearing at the fabric of society. It's a symptom of the wealth gap. People are angry because the system feels rigged.
An external conflict.
That's the rise of rival powers. When the dominant empire is weakened by debt and all this internal fighting, rising powers start to challenge them. And we see this everywhere with the geopolitical tensions globally.
It really does feel like we are ticking every single box on this list. Peace, debt, wealth gap, conflict.
And according to the historical record, there is only one stage left. Stage 5. The new order. The old system creates too much debt and too much conflict to sustain itself, so it goes through a restructuring, often a painful one, and a new financial order creates the rules for the next cycle.
And this isn't some conspiracy theory.
Not at all. It's just how the economic machine works.
So if the machine is turning and we're moving toward a new order, what does that actually look like? This is where the research takes a sharp turn into technology. You'd think if the system crashes, we're back to trading silver coins in a bunker.
Right.
But the stack suggests the new order is actually high-tech.
This is the pivot that catches people off guard. The elites know the dollar is declining. They are not going to let the world devolve into some Mad Max chaos.
They want to maintain control.
Of course. So they are engineering a replacement system, and that replacement is being built on blockchain.
Okay, we need to talk about SWIFT. Most people have probably heard the acronym maybe when they send an international wire transfer and get charged $40.
Yeah.
But what is SWIFT really?
Think of SWIFT as the Gmail of banking. It's a messaging system. When you send money to Japan, you aren't actually sending digital money. Your bank sends a message to the Japanese bank saying, hey, we owe you this much.
And then they settle up later.
Days later in the background. It's slow, it's expensive, and frankly, it is technology from the 1970s.
And the news from Davos, which I feel like did not get nearly enough headlines, was that SWIFT is upgrading.
Upgrading is too small a word. They admitted they are building a blockchain-based ledger.
A ledger.
They're moving from a messaging system to a settlement system.
Explain the difference for us. Why does ledger matter so much?
In a blockchain ledger, the message and the money are the same thing. It's called atomic settlement. When I send value, it moves instantly and is verified on the ledger. No waiting 3 days. No check is in the mail.
Wow.
And SWIFT is building the rails to connect 40,000 banking corridors and 150 currencies onto this new shared ledger.
Okay, but I can hear the crypto enthusiasts screaming at their devices right now. See? Bitcoin wins.
Right.
But SWIFT isn't building this for Bitcoin, are they?
No. And this is a distinction we have to be absolutely crystal clear on. The banks do not want a currency they cannot control. Bitcoin is decentralized. No one controls it. SWIFT is building this infrastructure for 2 specific things: stablecoins and central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
We throw those terms around a lot. Let's define them so everyone is on the same page. What is the difference between a CBDC and a stablecoin?
Okay, so a CBDC is government issued. It is a digital dollar issued directly by the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank. It is programmable, meaning the issuer can track it and potentially even control how it is spent.
Okay, that's a bit scary. And a stablecoin?
A stablecoin is usually private issued by a company like Circle or Tether, but it's pegged one-to-one with the dollar. It trades on a blockchain, but it just represents fiat currency.
So the banks want the speed of crypto, the blockchain tech, but they want to keep the underlying asset as the fiat currency that they control.
Precisely. They're building a walled garden. They want to modernize the plumbing without changing the water that flows through it.
But there seems to be a real rush involved here. The research mentions the IMF, the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, and the Financial Stability Board all moving at warp speed to regulate this stuff. Why the hurry?
Because they are afraid of currency substitution. That's the technical term. In plain English, they are terrified that if the dollar continues to weaken, people will abandon fiat currency entirely and move to decentralized options like Bitcoin or other unregulated commodities.
Oh.
If everyone starts using a currency the government can't print or control, the government loses its power. So they are rushing to regulate stablecoins and launch CBDCs to ensure that their digital money remains the dominant standard.
It's a defensive move.
It's an aggressive defensive move. They are trying to capture the liquidity before it escapes the system.
So let's synthesize this. On one hand, we have the Dalio cycle showing the dollar is nearing the end of its dominance, and central banks are buying gold to protect themselves. On the other hand, we have the new blockchain rails being built by SWIFT to facilitate a new digital currency system. The question is, what does this mean for you, the listener? How do you position yourself?
This is where we have to rethink the entire investment thesis. The old 60-40 portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, that was built for the peace and prosperity phase.
Yeah.
It does not work in the conflict phase or the transition to a new order.
Because the bonds are the very debt that is being devalued.
Exactly. Yeah. If the government is inflating away the debt, you do not want to be the one holding that debt. The research suggests a shift toward what we're calling the new basket of safe havens.
And that basket includes...
What? First and foremost, hard assets,
Yeah.
gold and silver. This aligns with what the central banks are doing. It is your insurance policy against the currency failing.
Okay.
But you can't just hold gold bars in your basement and expect to participate in the modern economy. Which brings us to the second part of the basket, utility crypto.
Now, utility is a buzzword that gets abused. We aren't talking about meme coins with dogs on them.
No, definitely not. When we say utility crypto in this context, we're talking about the infrastructure plays, the actual networks that will host these tokenized assets.
Tokenized assets. Let's dig into that. What does that actually mean for an investor?
Tokenization is the bridge between the old world and the new world. It means taking a real-world asset like a bar of gold or a piece of real estate or a treasury bond and creating a digital token on a blockchain that represents ownership of that asset.
So instead of needing to ship a gold bar to sell it, I can just trade the token instantly.
Right. It gives you 24/7 liquidity. And this is the elite strategy we are seeing in the research. The big players are stacking gold to preserve their wealth, but they are simultaneously investing in the technology that allows them to move that wealth. They are betting on the rails that SWIFT is adopting.
So the strategy isn't crypto versus gold, it's gold on crypto.
That is the aha moment. It's not an either. It is a convergence. The safety of hard assets combined with the speed of digital rails. That is what the new order looks like. A multi-currency digital world backed by tangible value.
It really feels like we are watching a game of chess where most people don't even know the board exists.
Most people are still playing checkers.
Yeah.
They're holding cash that is losing purchasing power every single day. They are looking at the stock market hitting all-time highs and thinking the economy is great, ignoring that the highs are just inflation in disguise.
They're completely exposed.
Completely exposed to the risks Dalio is warning about.
You know, if you find this breakdown valuable and you want to stay ahead of these shifts, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button for Crypto Global News. Seriously, click it now and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive.
It helps us a ton. And if you want updates even faster, join our Telegram. You can use the QR code on the screen or the link in the description.
This is a lot to digest. We've covered global history, monetary policy, and blockchain infrastructure in, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
But if we boil it down, the signal is clear, the system is changing, and the architects of that system are already positioning themselves for what comes next.
The transition has already begun. The gold purchases prove it. The SWIFT announcement proves it. The only question left is whether you acknowledge the data or you ignore it.
I want to leave you with a final thought. It's something that kept me up last night after we went through this research stack. We see the central banks building this lifeboat, They are hoarding gold. They are building blockchain networks. They're preparing.
And they are doing it very, very quietly.
Exactly. So if the people with the most power, the most data, and the most control over the global economy are building a lifeboat made of gold and blockchain, why are the vast majority of people still anchoring themselves to the sinking ship of fiat currency?
That is the question that will determine who keeps their wealth in the next decade and who loses it.
We're going to be tracking the development of these swift rails very closely in future deep dives, specifically looking at which protocols are being tested. To see our analysis on that, click the video card right here on your screen.
For now, take a look at your portfolio and ask yourself, are you positioned for the past or are you positioned for the new order?
The cycle is turning. Make sure you're on the right side of it. Thanks for joining our deep dive.
Stay ahead in the crypto market. Subscribe now for the latest global news and updates.